brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Trumpet's Call. I'm Maria. I pray that you're blessed today. I pray that you're holding on to faith and holding on to hope. That's what I'm attempting to do during these challenging times. Today's lesson, it's a little bit of a departure for me. It's a little different. And this lesson came about by way of the Ruach. I was listening to the book of Jubilees, and I thought that I was just randomly listening to it, but it turns out that the Most High wanted me to listen to it, and I didn't even know, and I just happened to be listening to scriptures that I have on my phone, and I got through Malachi, and then Jubilees came up, and so I just thought, yeah, I'll just go ahead and keep and listen. And so as I was listening to Jubilees, I heard something that kind of caught my attention. It was kind of jarring to me, and I went, what was that? And what does that mean? And so I paused, and then this is where the lesson began. So I'll begin in the book of Jubilees in chapter 10. In the 3rd week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, meaning Noah's grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and to make air and destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons which were leading astray and blinding and slaying his sons' sons. And he prayed before Yahuwah his Elohim, and said, Elohim of spirits of all flesh, who hast shown mercy unto me, and hast saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and hast not caused me to perish, as thou didst the sons of perdition. For thy grace has been great towards me, and great has been thy mercy to my soul. Let thy grace be lift up upon my sons, and let not wicked spirits rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do thou bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. But thou knowest how thy watchers, the fathers of these spirits, acted in my day. And as for these spirits which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of thy servant, my Elohim. For these are malignant and created in order to destroy. Okay, I'm going to pause right here for a second. So Noah is telling us that these demon spirits, or these wicked spirits, are the spirits of the children of the watchers, the Nephilim. So the Nephilim were left upon the earth. The Most High allowed them to kill each other and wipe each other out on the earth. And their spirits, because they were half fallen angel and half human, they had, for whatever reason, eternal spirits, or spirits that did not pass on once they left the land of the living. And so they continue to exist as wicked, evil spirits who was wreaking havoc on the people of Noah's day, his sons and his sons' children and their children, blinding them and killing them. So this is what Noah's petitioning the Most High for mercy in this instance. Okay, verse 6. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, for thou alone canst exercise dominion over them. And let them not have power over the sons of the righteous from henceforth and forevermore. And Yahuwah our Elohim bade us to bind all. So the Most High is saying, bind the spirits. And the chief of the spirits, Mastema, came and said, Lord Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them hearken to my voice, and do all that I shall say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption, and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And he said, Let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. And one of us, he commanded, that we should teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness nor strive in righteousness. And we did according to all his words. All the malignant evil ones we bound in the place of condemnation, and a tenth part of them we left, that they might be subject before Satan on the earth. And we explained to Noah all the medicines of the diseases of their diseases, together with their seductions, how he might heal them with herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote down all these things in a book, as we instructed him concerning every kind of medicine. Thus the evil spirits were precluded from hurting the sons of Noah. And he gave all that he had written to Shem, his oldest son, for he loved him exceedingly above all his sons. Okay, so after reading this, obviously lots of questions just started to be presented to me. I'm like, wow, what's this and what's this? But as if we read it and we believe what the scripture says, it's telling us that the diseases on the earth were brought forth by way of evil spirits, that they are the cause of them, that they're somehow behind them, and they somehow caused them to persist. Okay, and that the healing of these diseases comes by way of the Ruach, of course, by way of the power of the Ruach through Messiah, and the herbs of the earth. So the Father has given us the herbs of the earth for our healing, and these demon spirits were instructed to give Noah essentially the herbal cures for the diseases that they were bringing upon the children of men. And these were written down in a book. Where that book is, I can only guess, maybe in the Vatican somewhere, but we don't have that book. But we do have wisdom that the Most High has been allowing us to gain over the past, 100 years or so. We've been able to regain, I should say, this knowledge of certain herbs and essential oils and things like that are good for the healing of the nations, good for the healing of the body. So as I was reading this, the question that just kept coming to me are demons the source of diseases? And then I thought about Messiah and how Messiah spent a good deal of his time healing the sick and casting out demons. And that how sometimes when a particular person had a particular sickness or disease, he didn't address the disease, he addressed the demon. And how, as I did a little bit of research on this, I found out that until the 20th century, or well into the 20th century, almost every culture on the earth believed that diseases were brought about by demonic spirits or wicked spirits, and not by germs or the V word, viruses. They didn't believe that. They believed that spirits were behind the diseases on the earth. And so somehow, with the advent of more science and scientific method, people began to stray from what they believed to be true and began to assign physiological and psychological causes to sickness and disease, and began to shy away from attributing them to demonic oppression, influence, and possession. So we have this happening in the world right now. And the Most High, after allowing me to read that, shared with me that there are some things that I was to learn from this. So this word right here on the screen, this word, I was looking into this, and I had read something in one of the videos, or seen a video, something about certain words being spelled backwards having significance or meaning something. Or that even this word that they managed to come up with didn't necessarily mean what it says on the screen, but that it means something more like this: certificate of the V word, ID, and then the 19, the 19 meaning AI. Now, based on what I've been able to learn about this particular malady, I can see how this would be very accurate. I would have no problem believing that this is what it stands for. But it's also possible that it stands for more than this, and that wicked people have employed this method of spelling things backwards or hiding things in plain sight so that they get people to agree or assent to things that they wouldn't if they were really 100% aware of what was going on. Okay? So I'm going to read some from this article that I found, and I will post the credentials for the article at the end here. So, first of all, we have the name of a disease that's written on the screen, and then he spelled it. And under agreed guidelines of the World Health Organization for Animal Health and the Food and Drug Organization of the United Nations, they had to find a name that did not refer to a geographical location, an animal, or an individual or group of people, and which is also pronounceable and related to the disease. Having a name matters to prevent the use of other names that can be inaccurate or stigmatizing. It also gives us a standard, this is what they're saying, format to use for any future corona outbreaks. Since then, all news outlets all over the world have been relentlessly repeating the term in a kind of ritual invocation. The word. I won't be saying it because I want this video to stay up. So the word. Okay? So this image on the screen, this image is associated with a type of demonic spirit that is oppressive and clings to its victim and saps it of strength and demoralizes it and makes the human being unable to cope, unable to think, unable to reason, unable to function properly in proper strength and vitality. So we're going to learn more about this. So keep in mind, we're looking at the concept of things being hidden in plain sight, things that are spelled out having a different meaning when you reverse the spelling. And so let's continue on with this article. Since then, all news outlets all over the world, okay, we have read that so far, so let's move on. 5 and then the word 19 is supposed to be an acronym coming from the corona disease and the year it was first registered, 2019. However, what happens if we investigate this word according to the above-mentioned Dolly Yod algorithm? Chances are that the inverted Hebrew letters would not return anything meaningful, right? After all, Dolly could have only been a bizarre coincidence. Well, coincidence or not, according to the same rule, this word becomes divok, transcribed as that in Hebrew, and it actually means something. It means possession by an evil spirit. The word is transcribed into English as dibuk, the B and the V being represented through the same Hebrew character, bet. To better understand what a dibuk is, we will submit to no less than the authority of Professor Yoram Bailu, Professor of Sociology and Anthropology at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and the recipient of the prestigious Israel Award in 2013. According to Bailu, and then we're going to go on and hear about Professor Bailu is saying. But before we do that, I wanted to address what he's talking about here with regard to Dolly, the sheep. He's talking about the first cloned animal, and scientists were so excited that they cloned this animal for the first time. And the significance of having cloned this animal is this nod to attaining some sort of godhood type status where they could say, well, we didn't have any help in this creative process. We created this animal all by ourselves, and now we are on par with the Most High because He is creator and we are creator. Okay, so this is what they're saying by this. So this is supposed to have been a momentous occasion for them by having created this cloned sheep. Okay, and so it was said that the sheep was called Dolly after Dolly Parton, who's been known to be, well endowed. And so they named the sheep Dolly, they say, because it the cell that was used to create it was taken from breast tissue, thus the mammary gland tissue, which thus we can understand the reference to Dolly Parton. Okay? But if you look at the word Dolly and you look at it backwards and you look at it in Hebrew, it becomes a word that shouldn't mean anything, but it does. If you look at it from right to left instead of left to right, because we know Hebrew is a language that goes left to right, if we look at it from right to left, it has an appropriate meaning. It means newborn or infant. It's almost as if they're saying, through the naming of this, that we have created our first infant, our first a newborn, that we are now creators. So this is a word that has a meaning by looking at it backwards. You're looking at the word backwards and it suddenly has a meaning. Well, some people have determined that other words like the one on the screen, has a meaning when you look at it backwards. So we're going to continue on and see what the Professor Bailu has to say about this. The term Daibuk was used in Jewish mystical circles to designate a spirit of a dead person, a notorious sinner in his lifetime that took temporary possession of a human being. A Daibuk possession was always conceived as an affliction or an illness, and the possessing agent a foreign, dangerous intruder that had to be expelled. The exorcist was always a revered rabbi who confronted the spirit with various religious informed measures used in a fixed, graded order. Quoting renowned Kabbalist Gershom Schillen's works, Bailu points out that Daibuks, demons or evil spirits or evil souls, possess some unhappy or mentally sick creature. Daibuks seem to target mostly women and children, and emotionally intensification or arousal are prerequisites for such demonic possessions. Bailu concludes, Daibuk possession left the victim as a passive object, temporarily bereft of self-awareness and without self-control vis-a-vis two external authorities, the possessing spirit who deprived the possessed of her individual identity, and the rabbi exorcist who compelled the spirit to leave. The synchronicities between Daibuk and the word on the screen, producing a V, are not limited to name only. Daibuk comes from the Hebrew verb dabag, which translates as to adhere or to cling. Similar to the way a Daibuk takes over its victim's body, the corona clings to a host cell and takes control. According to the MIT Technology Review, the V's spike proteins or protein spikes attach to a protein on the surface of the cells called the ACE2 receptors. Normally, ACE2 plays a role in regulating blood pressure, but when the corona binds to it, it sets off chemical changes that effectively fuse the membranes around the cell and the V together, allowing the V's RNA to enter the cell. The V then hijacks the host cell's protein-making machinery to translate its RNA into new copies of the V. Maybe the analogies in name and action between the word on the screen and Daibuk are just coincidences or a benign wordplay. Maybe, but maybe they are an indication that the disease is a major step in the alchemical processing of humanity, an event of foremost importance, just like Trinity and just like Dolly. So he's saying here that just like with the Dolly incident that I mentioned, they were marking an important step in seeing themselves in the role of God or the role of creator as they created or brought forth this Dolly, this infant. So too, by naming this what they've named it and then reversing it and having the reversal of the word mean a demonic spirit that attacks and attaches itself and oppresses, that this is what they're bringing forth, that they're not only reworking human deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, but they're also oppressing the people that they're treating, that they're bringing forth the V to treat the people, and in the process introducing a demonic element, not only in the disease, but also in the proposed treatment. This is pretty significant. It's pretty significant. So this is what the Most High was trying to point out to me, trying to show me as I was looking into this. And this is not anything I've ever really looked into on my own. Like I said, I heard someone briefly mention the Daibuk, but I didn't really think much of it or look into it at all. But after this, I'm thinking, I think what the Most High is trying to indicate to us is that we have lost this idea that disease, dis-ease, is tied to demonic activity. But if we're to look at Noah and his prayer to the Most High bound 90% of these demonic spirits and allowed 10% to still be on the earth. When Messiah came, when Messiah walked the earth, there was no shortage of people to heal and no shortage of people to cast demons out of, because even with the 10% that was left on the earth, they were busy wreaking havoc. But I also think that it's very possible that though the demonic spirits were locked away, people summoned them. And I believe that human beings, have the right to summon them through their activity, through their sin. And perhaps that's what CERN has been doing. CERN has been doing. This Hadron Collider that's been somehow reaching into dark matter, into the vast recesses of the universe to explore things that they probably shouldn't. So perhaps there has been a calling forth of these dark spirits, enough to offer possession on a multitude and on a scale that we have not yet seen. I know that the Most High is revealing to me and to others that possessions and oppressions are increasing, and that the darkness is increasing, and that when the Most High arises upon us, upon his children, there is a gross darkness. There's a gross darkness that's coming to the earth. It's dark already, but it's going to get darker, as if in a darkness that can be felt. Just like our ancestors experienced before they left Egypt. So we're seeing here it is playing out again in a similar fashion. So exploring this idea a little more, can demons cause sickness and disease? I found this article, which I will link the source of it at the end. I'll read a little bit of it here. It says, the belief that demons bring sickness and disease is ridiculed these days as archaic and superstitious. But has our reliance on science blinded us from a power hiding in the shadows? The cultural gap. Before science formed the basis of our modern thinking, people believed that demons brought on sickness and death. But through technology, the microscopic world opened up to us, and we learned of viruses and bacteria. Modern medicine replaced spiritual remedies. In the enlightened world, to ascribe sickness and disease to demons is largely regarded as superstition. But not all of the world sees things this way. In the Western world, we see a gap between the spiritual world and the natural world. In our eyes, the two are not connected, but this is not the case in many other cultures in places such as Africa, South America, and Haiti. The people of these cultures see the spiritual world and the natural world as overlapping. Even in our own country, the Native Americans have always understood this to be the case. Witch doctors, shamans, spells, and curses are all too real to people in these regions, and in many of these cultures, going to a shaman or a witch doctor instead of a medical doctor to stop disease is normal. Yet more and more people in Western culture are seeking a spiritual solution. Spiritual healing is growing as people search for other options. Eastern medicine, alternative therapies, and mystic New Age practices such as Reiki are rapidly growing in acceptance. It seems that despite our practical nature, deep inside, we seek a spiritual solution. We seek a higher prognosis than you have cancer and you only have 6 months to live. In truth, the things in the spiritual manifest in the physical. Or conversely, the things that we see in the natural are rooted in the spiritual. This truth goes far and wide beyond sickness and disease. But for now, let's stay on topic and focus on sickness and disease. Of course, V's and bacteria have a direct role in illnesses, but would you believe that these germs are led by an unclean spirit? Is it possible? Certainly an injury can result from trauma, but is that injury prolonged by a spirit taking advantage of the trauma? Could the spirit have even helped cause the trauma? For sure, cancer can be linked to toxins in the body. But is the cancer itself backed by a spirit? Yes, and yes, and yes. How do I know this? Experience. Okay, this is this author giving his personal experience. So I will read some of this. He says, I have many examples of this, but I'll take a very recent example that occurred this week. He said, I twisted my ankle several times lately. None of the events were too serious, but I realized when I tried to stretch my ankle that it was inflexible and painful to turn. Knowing that spirits can be linked to injuries, I commanded the unclean spirit to leave my ankle using authority. At first, nothing happened. Then, my ankle suddenly started to pulsate. I commanded the spirit to leave once again, and I felt pain start to move up my leg. It was on the move. Repeating the order, the pain quickly left. I then initiated the healing, which I will describe in a future blog, and the pulsating slowly subsided. Soon my ankle had regained all flexibility and the pain had left. You see, the spirit had used the injuries and my acceptance of the resulting pain to reside in my ankle. To find healing, I first had to evict the spirit. So we see this man's experiences with using the authority given to us as believers in Messiah to evict demon spirits. And he evicted the spirit from his ankle and experienced relief. I know that there are times in my life personally when I'm feeling a certain way or feeling like something's attacking, and you take authority. When you take authority in the name of Yahushua, Jesus or Christ or Messiah, the demons have to respond to the authority of his name. And so could it be so simple that we have been allowing ourselves to fall prey to these sicknesses and diseases, not knowing the spiritual nature behind them? If we look at the word of the Most High, if we look at the word, if we look at the way that our Messiah operated in the scriptures and in the world when he was here in flesh, we see in Matthew chapter 8, it reads, when evening came, they brought him many who were demon possessed, and he cast out the spirits with a word and healed all who were ill. So we see here the link between being ill and being possessed. In Matthew 12:22, we see, then a demon-possessed man who was blind and mute was brought to Yahushua Jesus, and he healed him, so that the mute man spoke and saw. So he was demon-possessed, and he was, as a result, blind and mute. And when the spirit was cast out, he could then speak, and he could then see. We have Matthew 17:18. And Yahushua rebuked him, and the demon came out of him, and the boy was cured. So the demon left, the boy was cured. And he healed many who were ill with various diseases and cast out many demons. Once again, in Mark 6:13, we see, and they were casting out many demons, or were anointing with oil many sick people and healing them. So once again, you see this connection between casting out devils and bringing healing. In Luke 10:19-20, Messiah says, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy, and nothing will harm you. However, do not rejoice that the spirits are subject to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. So the Messiah has given his people, his followers, authority over the demonic realm. But we won't be able to exercise that authority properly if we don't understand how it works. If we don't understand that at the root of sickness and disease is a demonic presence, then you'll spend your time treating the demonic or treating the illness with herbs and with the things that the Most High has given us to treat those things, which is a good thing. But at the root, you have to get at the root. At the root, there's a spiritual cause. And I believe in this hour, the Most High is going to be raising up his sons, his mature sons and daughters, to do battle. Just like our ancestors had to do battle to inherit their land, to inherit the promised land that was to be theirs. They had to fight the ites. So too, I believe in this time, in this age, the Most High is raising up his beloved, those who are surrendered to him, those who are allowing themselves to grow in the spirit and become strong and do exploits to defeat the wicked demonic presence that's growing in the earth right now. This is what I see. This is what I feel in my ruach. So I wanted to share this with you, wanted to share what I believe the Most High is saying, the thing that's in the world right now that I will yet leave unnamed, but you will see it on the screen right now, that this is very possibly a huge initiation, a demonic initiation to bring the whole world under demonic oppression. In the same way that in order to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, you must be filled with the Ruach, or the Spirit of the Most High Yah. The same way, in order to be a part of this beast system, they want you to be filled with the spirit of the Antichrist, the spirit of the wicked one. And this medicine that they're sharing with everyone is the initiator. It's the conduit. It's the transporter to bring that about. But those who know their Elohim will not be deceived. They will not be injected. They will not take things that are not good for their bodies, and they will not fall prey to what's happening, and they will be strong, and they will do exploits. So I pray that you receive something from this word, and if the Most High gives me permission or wants me to, I'll speak more on it. But suffice it to say that the scripture says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So we need to know our enemy. We need to know what our enemy is trying to do. And if we know that what's coming upon us is spiritual, then we know that the cure for it has to be spiritual. Yes, we need to take our measures. We need to have our herbs and have wisdom in that department. But the most important thing that we need to do is we need to fight this enemy in the spirit realm. And we do that on our knees. We do that in worship. We do that in spending time with the Father, spending time with Messiah. So don't forsake that. And I'm speaking to myself first. Don't forsake that. The Most High bless and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and grant you peace. May He call you and draw you into His presence in such a strong way that you can't deny it or resist it. May He strengthen us all for the days ahead, for the battles ahead. May He keep our bodies healthy. May He grant us wisdom and understanding and insight. And may He show us the power that He's given to us. May He open up the eyes of our understanding and enlighten us as to the power and the authority that we have in His Son. Thank you for joining me once again on Trumpet's Call, brothers and sisters. Be blessed. Shalom.